Hey there, dear viewer. I know what you may be wondering. This is not a video game. What is all this garbage here? Well, I have joined up with Timo or Laugh. This is also where you say hi.
Yeah, you can't see me like do wavy hand motions at the moment, so
No.
yeah.
But that being said, we are here today to rank not only the JoJo parts, but the JoJo antagonists and the JoJos themselves. And we may throw in some other spicy takes, in between. We're just here to talk about the thing. Let me ask you, what is your experience with JoJo's?
That is a loaded question.
Yes.
Um, I think I first read JoJo's. When did part 7 start? When did Steve Run start?
Oh, I don't
God,
know.
2011, I believe?
Yeah,
Wait.
that's about right.
I remember that was around the time I got really into what it's sorry, it's stopped 2011. Sorry. I got into JoJo's in like the final run of Steel Ball Run actually.
Okay.
That was around the time when I got really into reading manga, and I think I started reading it like middle end 2010-ish.
So Steel
So,
Ball Run was your first part.
Steel Ball Run was my first part, indeed. I like when I between me starting to read, there was like, the final bit of Steel Ball Run, uh, the world.
Okay,
I had to
sure.
go back and read everything in between.
It made
Luckily, the
no
chapter
sense
releases
before
were very,
that.
very
Yeah,
slow.
yeah. That's so funny. You chose like the worst part to like read it. Anyways,
Yeah,
let's
I just saw people post memes and I was like, maybe I need to be caught up on this.
maybe you need some context. I started
Yeah.
pretty late, probably like 2 years ago or 3 years ago. But like I started with part one, the anime. But the thing is, I don't know if this is your experience with any anime. I don't actually like watching TV, and I don't like anime that much. What I like is reading comics. So usually I'll watch a little bit of an anime and go, oh, I want to read this. And then I just read it. And then I'm done in like half the time. It is so much better.
I agree with that. I love binging shit. I'm not big into the whole, read it week by week. I say that as I have like a religious experience with One Piece every single week, but that's
Oof.
something that's different. Otherwise, normally I wait. I mean, especially with like shonen anime, they
Yeah.
come and go so fast. It's like, dude, yeah, I'm gonna wait 3 years for everything to be out and just read it in one go.
Yeah.
I can't be asked to just
Uh,
I think I don't know if you were into anime in like the 2000s, back when it was like the treasure hunt when you went looking for any good show and then you just binge through the entire thing.
America had a lot more limited options in the 2000s. It was either
I'm
like the famous stuff or like the bad dubs. Like I remember liking One Piece with the 4 Kids dub. So my life was a very different life than everybody else's because I was a child. And then like if it was a more hardcore anime, it was like in the corner of a shop. You know what I mean? Where it was a little darker and people looked at you funny. Things are different now. Now it takes up half the bookstore. There's like 3 times as much manga as there is a comic book. So it's like, it's pretty dominant now. Anyways, we're off the topic now. Do you just want to go ahead and lay the foundation by discussing part one, Phantom Blood?
ooh. Part one Phantom Blood. Do we rank it already? Probably we shouldn't.
Okay,
Um,
well, first of all,
it
I do
is
want to say I think we should re examine these early placements later on.
yeah.
Okay, go ahead, tell me your
But for
thoughts.
Phantom Blood, I think Phantom Blood is an interesting kind of experience, especially if you consider when it came out. It starts off as just, oh yeah, this is a macho manga coming out like in the 80s. with
Yeah.
Fist of the North Star, and I think Berserk started around that time as well.
Yep.
And it's very much in line with it at first, and quickly just veers into very weird and bizarre shit. Um, and it's really just Araki, and we see that in the next part as well. Araki just finding his voice, quote unquote, or just more leaning more into his little like weird stylings.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree. I think part one is on the face of it a very standard manga. And Jonathan Joestar is very Kenshiro coded, very stoic, plain. That was the kind of hero you would see in the mangas of the time. And it is a very traditional manga in that sense. That being said, I like the horror elements of it. And I definitely like just the dynamics at play. I think the characters are very like really loaded. I think, well, I guess we'll get into it more, but I think it's a really good way to set up context for everything that follows, even if it was formulaic.
oh, definitely. But you know, what everyone will talk about with part one is Dio, who's just from the first panel he's introduced, he's like the most iconic villain in like I want to say in a lot of fiction, maybe in all of fiction. I
I don't
would
know
go as
about
far because
that.
Dio is just such a
There's literally a Dracula in the same like genre.
yeah, but like Dio just okay. You gotta understand. I mostly veer in like the Japanese side of things, and like
Sure.
there's definitely like this thing before Dio and after Dio when it comes to villains.
BD and
He's
AD,
such
I get
a
it.
yeah, he is such a force of nature. The like blunt charisma and everything is just so abhorrently evil and disgusting, yet kind of human at the
The
same
only other
time.
comparison I could ever think of is Griffith, and they're very similar but very different in like very specific ways. But they've still got like the magnetic charm, but I fucking hate your guts, dude. Like,
Yeah,
um,
but
go ahead.
what a guy.
Yeah, I know.
What a
What a
guy.
guy.
Just
Yeah.
like from the introduction, kicks the dog, kills him by the end of the first chapter. Like,
This manga
man.
starts with like a ritual sacrifice. Those are the first pages. Is a ritual
Yeah.
sacrifice, and then a dog dies, and it is a wild. And then like Jack the Ripper shows up, and then by the end of the part, Dio is ahead, and he's like, "I want to take over your body." It's great. It's a good part. It's a good part. I am leaning towards a low B.
Low B. Hmm. I personally would put it in C mostly because it just sets the baseline and we just only move up from there.
I could put it there, and then I could argue for it later.
I take that.
Okay, all right. I think that's fair. As we're on this, and we're going to sort of bring it through. Let's go to the JoJo antagonists. They have split the Dios, which is very fortunate for us. How do you feel about Dio Part One only?
I think part one Dio, maybe I would put him in A, honestly.
I think he
He's
makes
just
the part.
yeah. His best vibes, his best gimmicks are still to come, but this is like the standard is set here, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I also feel like the real like if there was anything to really love about the part beyond like the typical genre stuff you see, it is Dio versus Jonathan. It is this very flamboyant slash like creative force that Araki is pushing in Dio, and then like the very traditional virtues and themes present in Jonathan butting heads in like a really cool way. It feels like a family drama for like the first like few chapters of the book, and I love that.
Hmm.
And then how do we feel about Jonathan?
There are a lot of characters on that list, actually. Oh, damn.
I think
Um,
they include Joseph like 50 times. They include like part 6 Josuke. Not Joe's K. Jotaro. Yeah.
I mean,
There's so many Joes. Sorry.
too many JoJos. Um, that's I want to put Jonathan in okay, maybe even bad, but also it's just like
I
we're
don't think he.
comparing
I
him.
don't think there's
We're
enough to
comparing
him
him,
to be bad.
Yeah, but also
I
like
don't
the
think there's
comparison, he's
any.
very
Go ahead.
considering who comes after, right? He's very bland.
But it's
He's
like
like just a
it's
stale slice of
intentional.
bread.
Well, like I think Iraqi even said it is like a lot of these guys are wacky or very specific, and it's because he was able to make one boring one. I think that the reason why he should be an okay is because there's not a lot to be negative about. There's a lot to like about him, and then there's like not a lot to hate about him. And like yes, he's bland, but it's fine. To me, it's fine. I think he should be an okay.
You know what? For that final moment he has with Dio, I think he deserves okay, maybe even good.
I agree. I especially like the end where he like holds Dio's head and is like, I think we are friends in a weird way. As like it's a really cool moment. But that being said, we move on to part 2, where shit. I think this is where it becomes JoJo's. Even without the stands, it's like the ass pulls of the century.
It is ass pulled upon. A friend of mine once described part 2 as like playground fighting, when you just make up superpowers,
It's
and
like,
then
nah,
just
I
two
had a
children
force
arguing.
field. I had a force field
Yeah,
that blocks
exactly.
all of it.
And it's just that for 5 to 10 minutes until the fight is over. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree. I think it's if you're not into it, it's kind of bad. But I'm secretly into it, so it's
okay.
good. Does that make sense?
Okay, so I always hold to that. If you are not like with Joseph when Caesar dies, if you're not with that, if that like doesn't tear you apart, that like it's theatric, right? It's like I hate using the word Shakespearean, but it's like very theater, it's very grandiose.
I agree.
And I loved it. And you just, if you're in it, you really, really feel it. And if you don't like it, you at least have to respect it because I guess that's for a lot of JoJo's as well. It's just so emotionally very honest and loud
Yeah.
about everything, very extravagant. And I think that's what makes Battle Tendency like really stick out because that's where we like kind of set the bar there for like we go from uh Jonathan hugging the head of his mortal enemy and being like, yeah, actually we're brothers and I kind of love you in a weird twisted way to like we go up from there.
Yeah. I also wanted to say regarding part 1 real quick, I think it's very fitting that the main primary live action adaptation of Phantom Blood is a musical in live theater. I feel like that's very appropriate for the part, and I feel like that really shines. For me personally, part 2 is Joseph the part. And I mean that in a lot of ways. Obviously, like how the fights go and like why you care about the part, but also the way Joseph's brain works is very comic book coded. And he reads comic books. He's like a Superman fan. It's like the first thing you learn about him. And like in a very like Silver Age comic book way, those are where the ass pulls come from. And I feel like that's very inspired.
And then the final ass pull.
The volcano ass pull?
Yeah, I love that at the end where he just tries to fuck off cars just to piss him off. Yeah, I've planned all of this. I didn't, but it's so good.
My complaints about the part. Okay, I like the Pillar Men. I like Cars, maybe not, and I like Cars and Wamu. I don't like ACDC and Santana. I don't like Caesar. I don't like Lisa. I'm gonna be real. I think they're bad. I think it's like good enough.
I think they're still very much side characters, which is something would starts to be addressed on like this next part, right?
Yeah,
I think Jojo's interesting. You can see just like you can clearly see like Araki leveling up in real time, from part to part.
yeah.
So yeah, where do
So
we put it?
I am leaning towards higher C or low B again.
I will put it in higher C first and see where we end up after.
Okay. All right. Now we're gonna go to the antagonists. There is only one Pillar Man featured, and it's Cars on this. So I I will say I like Cars a lot. To
I
me
also like
personally,
Cars.
go ahead.
I like Cars a lot, but compared to like who he's up against here, that's kind of, you know,
Are you
it's
trying to
not.
are you trying to say Cars is probably the worst of these?
I think he actually is, but he's still like strong by other standards. It's just that he's very boring compared to everyone else on this list, right?
But there's just something about becoming the ultimate life form and then having Joseph run away. It's just so funny. It's so good.
Yeah, it's true, true. I agree. I agree there.
I'll put him in C.
Okay,
I feel like that is an appropriate place for him.
that is okay.
But that being said, I'm gonna start pushing now. I feel like Joseph is in like best to good territory. Like I'll put him in S tier. I would
I
rather call this S tier and then A, B, C, D.
see. I would put him in A tiers just because I like his later iterations when he's older a lot more than his younger self.
Oh, I disagree. Go ahead,
I
continue.
like I like old man Joseph Joestar more personally
Uh-huh.
because he's still a dorky motherfucker, but at the same time he's also like a bit more wiser and not just a walking shitpost.
I can bump him to A. You're not gonna sell me on putting old Joseph higher. I think old Joseph is one of my disappointments into part 3 and part 4. To be fair, but I'll put him in A. That's fine. That's fine. It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. Okay.
But now we get into stands. Oh my god. This is where it actually becomes JoJo's. Stardust Crusaders. I have a lot of feelings, and all of them are numbed by the length of the story. They're so boring. Actually, the manga's way better in pacing than the anime. The anime has dog shit pacing.
Yeah, I don't know why they decided to be like, yeah, we should make every arc at least two episodes.
Yeah, that's
It's
wild. Wild.
really, I don't know why we do that.
What? Tell me how you feel about Stardust Crusaders.
I think Stardust Crusaders is like difficult to look at just on its own, considering how, influential it is. I mean, that's like a lot of JoJo's, but like Stardust Crusaders is
If you
like the
take out
one.
Stardust Crusaders, this whole thing falls apart.
Yeah, Stardust Crusaders is the one. It's like where JoJo became like the sacred text, the Dead Sea Scrolls
Yeah.
of manga and anime.
Um.
Also, we talked about it yesterday, but I want to mention it again. If you haven't seen it, watch that Satoshi Kon adaptation of it, both parts.
It's a much better. It's like the best Dio fight. It is so worth watching the Satoshi Kon animation for that. And I like the David production. I just feel like it's like it doesn't pop. There's something
It,
magical about the OVA. I like the
it,
OVA a lot.
the David production one is just hype. The final fight is just hype, 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 hype.
Yeah.
With all the plot twists. It's more like the manga, which is, I guess, I don't know if we have time for that, but David Production does like a really good job at adapting the manga of how it reads and how it feels to read
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
But the Satoshi Kon animation, I believe it's animated by Madhouse, right?
Yeah.
Turning the Dio fight into a horror movie out of Jotaro's perspective is so fucking insane. I love it.
Yeah. And it gets grisly in some parts. Iggy's death is the worst in the Satoshi Kon or in the OVA rather. It can get really brutal. I feel like the problem with the part, other than how long it is it's too flavor of the week. It is very like, oh, here's the stand, and like this is the part where the stands are a little boring. So you definitely like get a little sleepy during some of the stand fights. I think it ramps up in pace once Iggy shows up. I think once Iggy shows up, like the fights are good. But before that,
Yeah,
I'm like, eh.
you can still see him like Araki kind of figure out what it is. I like how what I should probably notice. I like how the fights are sometimes presented more as situations than straight up just 1v1s, right?
Yeah,
Someone gets turned into a child. There is something on the plane. There's something in the water.
yeah,
Um, and I think that's like such a creative approach considering to what was around back then.
yeah. I
So I
especially
can't give
like
it too much flack. It's like still like we're reinventing the wheel here at the moment.
not
So
just that. There's
I
some
need to give
really
some
really
slack.
fun fights even in this part. I think a highlight for me was the fucking baby dream stand that Kakyoin has to fucking fight. Oh my gosh, that is so fucking funny. It is a 10 out of 10 fight for me personally. I think the other problems I have with it is secretly I don't like Jotaro. And I feel like the bros are okay. I feel like to get into it a little bit before we rank them, I feel like old Joseph is a little bit of a missed opportunity. He takes too much of a backseat and doesn't really have as much of the things that show off who he was in part two. I like the grizzled veteran approach, but I don't feel like it lands the way I feel like it should have. It should have. And not even like it was Saturday. It just didn't land. I don't know. I feel like I think Polnareff and Kakyoin are stronger for that. I don't know. How do you feel?
I think part three in general is probably again, it's like we're reinventing the wheel here. And it is a bit of a slog, especially if you're watching the anime, but I feel like the moment they get to Cairo, it all pays off the wait, when you
Yeah.
just have like the boss battle rush before the end, it all pays off really really well, especially because like the bond between the characters starts to grow. Of course, like they're still very basic. We're still, Rocky's still like we're still learning things, we're still like figuring this out. But by the end of it, and we can see how that rolls over into the next part, how the improvement is by leaps and miles, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like this again, it's like this process of just like learning while doing and just getting it out of getting the quote unquote bad one out of your system now. So we can like go up from there instead of just being very um over ambitious with your characters and your arcs and whatever and
See,
falling
the way
flat.
you're describing
Like,
this and the way you're defending this sounds like Phantom Blood. You're like, well, it was the start. It sets the groundwork. It's okay if it's the bad one.
yeah. See, I think JoJo's like okay. Here's my thing about JoJo that I keep telling people, and everyone thinks I'm crazy when I say it. I think everything from part one till part six is still like the training arc, and then we see like Steel Ball Run is like Araki in his final form, and then only going up from there. Um, I think the old JoJo, like the part 1 to 6 is just it's a really good shonen manga, but it's just evolved into something so much more unique, and it feels to me better to just read these as okay, we're still figuring things out here, we're trying new things, right?
Okay, but then how does that make Phantom Blood C and fucking Stardust, which is a bajillion times longer? Okay. I think Stardust. I'm gonna go ahead and place it. I think Stardust is B. I think it's.
Yeah.
I think it can't go to C. It is not C. I am inclined at that point to bump part 2 back up.
I think I would bump on. Okay, I'm fine with that. but I would still keep it behind Stardust Crusaders just because Dio is really fucking cool in Stardust Crusaders.
Yeah, okay, yes, I get it. The climax is good. At the very least, it's proof that if you have a good ending, nothing before it matters. And I feel like that is the case. And I feel like it is also a good conclusion. If this was a trilogy, this would be a perfect bookend. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Um Okay, alright. Well, if that's the case, I feel confident that we could rank Stardust Crusaders Dio, even though this is like part 6 flashback of Stardust Crusaders Dio, into S tier.
Yes.
Okay.
Because he does the funny voice and then he throws a road roller at Jotaro.
Yes.
And he's borderline psychotic. I love him. God, he's so good.
Okay. And then how do we rank Jotaro? I have already semi-spilled my opinion. I also, by the way, this is my least favorite art of Araki's mangas. Even parts 1 and 2, they look weird when you like unfold the thing and the anatomy's kind of fucked. But I think parts 1 and 2 in the manga, it is like it feels very traditional, and here it's just a lot more tanky in a bad way for me.
I think this is like the peak shonen arc of Araki, where it's very like it's very
Muscle.
shonen. That's like the best. That's like the best I can put it. It's like, and that's what you see in part 4 as well. It's just the change in art style. It's like deliberate. Okay, we went too far into one direction. We overcorrect into the other now. Um, I'm too deep in the source of that, I notice. But yeah, Jotaro, I like Jotaro as a protagonist. But it's one of these things where also I like his later iterations a lot more when he gets to be like the side character.
I was gonna say I think he's better as a supporting character. Number 1 Star Platinum is OP. And like even in the part, usually if Jotaro's like in the fight, it ends pretty fast unless it's an abstract fight. And like he seems to have an answer for everything, and sometimes it works, like the Derby poker game. I'm like, this is a good use of Jotaro's character, but like other times it's like he is the lowest form of Jotaro to me, so I will put him in C. I think he's personally worse than Jonathan. I think the thing about Jotaro is like in this part he's an asshole, but like secretly he has a heart of gold, but then they drop it and then he's just like a dude that doesn't take no shit, and then that's it.
Okay, I'm not okay with him in C tier. I think you should bump him up at least behind Jonathan. I'm not gonna fight you on that because it's your list, but
Okay.
I would
I'll
not want
take
to see my boy
consultation.
down in C.
Is Jotaro your boy?
I love Jotaro. I think he's great.
Okay.
I like him. I like him.
Fair enough. I don't
He's
think
also very hot on. Honestly, his Japanese Japanese voiceover. I'm sorry, but like that voice, it does things to me.
Okay, all right. Well, we're not going to get into that. I will say, out of this list, he is not the worst. So bumping him to B is fine. I definitely see some picks for primary offenders. That being said, I think Joseph does also belong in B. Below Jonathan.
That's fair. That's fair.
I feel
I like
like
him
we have
being
an
a bit more
ascendant.
goofy. I like him being goofy, but a bit more mature compared to what he was in his part.
Yeah.
But it's also like very much okay. This is not his time to shine.
Yeah, and I bumped Jonathan down. I still don't think he's in a league completely destroyed. I don't think Jotaro and old Joseph beat the shit out of Jonathan as a character. So I'm lumping them in the same group, but I do think there's more to them. So I put them higher. Does that make sense?
Okay. We can take that. I can live with that. I can see the now with that.
Okay. All right. So now we're getting into Kino. Now we're getting into the good shit. This is when I was like, oh wait, this is a good series. Is part 4. I love murder mysteries. I love low scale things. I love slice of life. And I feel like this is the time where the supporting cast pops. And it pops so well that Araki still feels compelled to visit these characters.
Ah, my beautiful Duong. Um,
That
Diamond is
translation is a little
unbreakable.
rough.
um, Diamond is unbreakable is such a special piece of fiction, I think. It's just okay, we took this before from JoJo's of like, oh yeah, what about if fights are not always fights but more situations? And what if we like kind of expand on that and put it in a smaller setting? And then these quote unquote fights are, hey, let's go eat Italian food, or yeah, there's this weird alien dude hanging out here.
I
Or let's
also
visit
go.
the weird mangaka guy.
Yes, and I also like how a lot of the resolutions to the bad guys have them become part of the town or they become part of the growing cast. Like it sticks out to me that like you either become a book in the library or you become a stone face in one of the rocks in the town, and it gives the town personality. There's a ghost street. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of elements to it that give the town personality and character beyond just the supporting cast. And I feel like that place and setting makes a lot of it. For me, this is like I would say the best of pre reboot. I don't know how to say that. Pre Steel Ball Run, I guess. For me, this is either S or high A.
I would put it in high A personally.
Okay.
Because I think it's like it's probably the best out of the old ones. Maybe depends on your feelings on Stone Ocean, of course. Um, but Diamond is Unbreakable is just so it's cozy and terrifying at the same time.
It
I
brings
love
back
just
some of the horror that was in part one, for sure.
yeah, but it's more like localized and it's kind of like just uncanny. It's like okay, what is your weird neighbor doing? Wait, why is he having a hand?
Yeah.
Why is he licking it? That's kind of wild.
And it also
Mm,
speaks to like, the other parts are like grand morality, where it's like, oh, I'm a hero, I believe in virtue and justice and blah 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 blah. Whereas like here, there is a bad argument that like, oh, if Yoshikage Kiro was left alone, you wouldn't have problems in the town. But then it's like, no, that's not true. And then like the sense of justice and community fights back against that evil, you know?
mm. Also, we should probably mention the stands get really fun starting
Yes,
here.
yes, they get super fun. This is the point where they start becoming wacky. I
Which is
feel
okay. I think now we can actually go like with the like whole thing of like, what's your favorite stand of this part?
okay.
You have one?
I think I said my favorite stand in part three. My favorite character is Iggy. In part
Iki.
three.
Yeah.
For part four, I would say, first of all, this is a minor complaint. I feel like the secret protagonist for a large portion of part four is Koichi.
Yeah.
Um, I like echoes, the axe, the reverb, all of that. I love them, but I feel like the best like villain slash whatever. I like Shigechi a lot. I don't know why.
Oh yeah.
Shigechi really like speaks to me. Because he's lonely. Their scheme together to make money is very childlike. It's fun. It's a very fun time. And then when he dies, you feel a gravity to it. And then like there is a turning point. Once Shigeki dies, like the quest starts in earnest.
Yeah.
So that's
That's
for me.
also terrifying. Yeah, that's absolutely terrifying. Sagechi is such a great character. To me, my favorite character in part four, and I guess my favorite part stand as well is like, I mean, it's obvious. It's Rohan. It's Heaven's Door. It's just, oh,
The
he's so cool.
self-insert by Araki. Yes.
I'm sorry, he's so cool. I don't know, like he's such a dog. He's such a doofus. I love him. This like entire fight him against
My,
Josuke is so good as well.
my other complaint is they really push when someone shows up and they're secretly evil with a stand. They go super hard into being evil that it's really hard for me to be like to get over it after they've become like a friend. You know? And Rohan was like the biggest case for me with that. I was like, whoa. Because at the very least, the other guys, the puppet guy, I don't remember his name, or like the lock guy, they're not like fully integrated into the thing. But like for me, I was like, Rohan, I'm like, this is brutal. But it works by the end of it. You love them all. It doesn't matter.
Oh, Rohan is. God, I love him. There's another one. I forgot his name. No, why did I forget his name?
Ooh.
Of course, the alien guy is fucking cool. I love him. He's.
I like Okuyasu's stand. I like the idea of.
Oh, Okuyasu is also really cool.
I think that's a really good thing by Araki to make a really overpowered stand with a really dumb character. That's a very good move, and a lot of people don't do that sort of thing. So, thumbs up.
I forgot Yuya Funagami,
Yeah.
Highway Star. I
Yeah,
love
that's
him.
a
Yuya is
sick.
also really cool.
That's
He's
probably
such
my
a
favorite
dork.
fight. It's a good fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, and also with Ruth Rohan. This iconic mode. I refuse. It's so iconic.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. All right. So A tier. How do you feel about Yoshikage Kira?
I think we have to put him in S here.
Um, I don't love Yoshikage Kira that much. I think he does make the part. Honestly, here's how I feel. Looking at this list as it's developing, we could put him in S for now. Keep in mind, I'm gonna want to fight to bump Part 1 Dio down and put Yoshikage Kira in A. I'm also a person that's like, there should not be too many S's.
True. But also we're talking about Jojo here.
Yeah, that's fair. And there's a lot of good villains. For now, we'll keep it as is. Just remember that I'm not in love with Yoshikage Kira. But as far as JoJo's, I love Josuke.
I agree. I think Josuke's great. He's fun, fantastic. He's like a really different. He's like kind of, I guess, what was missing of Jotaro, with just he having a bit more of a personality, or being a bigger personality than just like telling people to shut up and leave him alone.
Yeah. He has a warmth to him. He like gets excited about things. He has like passions and stuff. Also, I don't know how you feel about this, Timo. Do you feel like Josuke's gay? And I don't mean that in like the everyone is dressing effeminately, Araki loves fashion. I mean, I legit, when I read the part, I feel like I feel like Josuke is gay.
I think he's still figuring himself out.
Okay. Yeah, that's
He's
fair.
open-minded with it,
Yeah.
At that age, he's open-minded with it. He's just like with the homies. He likes being a bit more extravagant with his dressing, with how he dresses. He's.
Like I wouldn't accuse anyone in part 5 of being gay just for fashion. I feel like Araki just loves fashion and character design. I just meant in like character dynamics and personality. I feel like Josuke's warmth and like subtle mannerisms to me really just pop in that way. Either way, for me he's A tier.
Yeah, but I would put him above Joseph.
Does he make the part?
I think Joseph. I think Jotaro's. Sorry, no, God. Help,
So many
please.
Joes, I know, dude. It's hard. It's hard.
Josuke. It gets easier later. Also, I just noticed. Why is Gyro missing down there? That's
I know.
criminal.
I thought about that. We'll talk about Gyro
That's
when we get
criminal.
to him. I guess.
Okay, yeah. But Josuke, I think his warmth and also his ability of like putting the things back together to one stable that kind of like plays into the theme of part 4 a lot.
He's a more involved character for sure. Like I would say, out of all of these so far, he is the best written protagonist. He
Yeah,
is a fully
restoring the
yeah,
peace. Yeah.
yeah, 100%. The thing is if we're bumping Joseph down, I, do we still feel comfortable with this ranking?
Do you feel comfortable with this ranking?
As of right now, I suppose so. As of right now, I suppose so. Um, all right, let's just get to it. Part 5, my least favorite part. This is my least favorite part by a lot. And it's not just because of borked translations online. There are good translations of part 5. I think people overhype that correction. I don't think it's a good part.
Okay, I like part 5. It is. I don't think it's not like compared to the others. I would rank it above Phantom Blood, maybe like next to Battle Tendency. Mostly because I think the characters work for me. If you just read it mostly as like a character drama with like, the funny dogs having adventures and fun battles, it
Here,
works for me.
here's the thing.
Um,
Go ahead, one more time.
it is just it doesn't. I think the whole thing doesn't really come together as good as like part 4. And I guess there's also like a bit of a debuff because you follow up part 4, right? And it feels a bit more okay. We're trying basically part 3 again. That structure. Um,
But with like a
and it
crime
doesn't.
drama element, and then Giorno as a protagonist is billed at the start as like a sort of like, oh, he wants to become the leader of the mafia, and like, oh, he's Dio's son. But like, I feel like there's not enough thematic resonance of being like, by the end of it, I barely feel that he's Dio's son, other than like the magnetic personality, but also Bruno Bucciarati. You just commented on Gyro not being in the Joes here, and I feel like Bruno is also an honorary Jojo, just for like how much he
Oh,
carries.
definitely. I think that's like one of the things you gotta like accept with part 5 is that Jono is more the background support. He's the healer of the group, right? He's the background support. And everyone else kind of gets more to shine through him rather than it being the other way around. And I think like I think if you focus on the other characters more than Jono, he seems in comparison bit lackluster. Um, but yeah.
Here's my take though. I will say this may be spicier as I think about it. Okay, I think part 5 does what part 3 does, but better. The stands of the week are better. So like I'm never bored during like a stand fight. I'm like, oh, these are always interesting and engaging, and like especially near the end, there's some amazing fights. Like the fucking Doppio Metallica fight is so good. It's like, wow, this is crazy. Like it gets into those hype levels without the name recognition of fucking Dio in part 3. I think obviously by the ending, part 3 beats it because it's more sensical. It's been built up to in a
Mhm.
proper way. Dio is flat out a better villain than Diavolo. And the way Jotaro wins is better than the way Giorno wins. Um, but that being said, as a consistent experience with consistent characters and like dynamics, I feel like part 5 is better than part 3. So like I'm kind of mixed.
I don't disagree. I think also part 5 what really helps it is the anime. I think that's like the one case where the anime is actually better than the manga.
I agree. Yes.
Because just, I think some of the fights just get like they're very too deep in the source with like the stance being very, very complicated and it's very hard to communicate that from picture to picture. I mean, the obvious example is of course King Crimson, right?
Yeah.
Which is just, that's an ability that is really, it reads really weird from panel to panel. It's very easy to understand once you just see it in motion, right?
Yeah. And like the other thing is like the one thing I wanted to cite as my favorite moment in part 5 is manga specific. I will say the dance in the anime is also way better. But there's a part in the manga where Giorno does the muda muda muda, and it goes on for pages. he
It's
just
so good.
it just
Oh
keeps
yeah,
going. It keeps going
it's so
for
good.
so
It's
long.
so good.
Yes, it's super fun. Um, that being said, I feel like we should be kind to the part and then not kind to the villain in Giorno. That's the way I'm leaning.
Mm.
So like I would bump
Okay,
it
I agree.
I would bump it
I
like
can take that.
here and then I would put Diavolo. I'm not gonna lie. If we could split them, I like Doppio. I like the pitch of Doppio and I like King Crimson enough. But I'm like leaning towards bumping cars up and keeping Diavolo down at the bottom. I think he kind of makes the part worse. Um, I don't know how you feel about that, but then I would also say Giorno would be C.
Can we say that Bruno is B
Bruno
above
would be
Jotaro?
A.
Maybe.
Bruno would be
A?
A, I think.
And of course, S tier would be Mister.
Yeah. I agree. If we could rank the characters in general, yes. 100%.
Mister is the greatest. I love him.
Oh, we forgot someone. Shit, we gotta go back to part 4. We forgot 2
Who do we-
people. We forgot 2
Who?
JoJos in part 4. Fuck.
Oh damn! Yeah. Oh.
Okay, alright. To rewind a little bit. I think my favorite Jotaro is Part 4 Jotaro because he has that leadership role. He maintains the same personality, but it's much better in a supporting role where it's like, oh yes, he's a checkmate as soon as he gets onto the field, but then the issue is he can't get onto the field for a large portion of the story.
Yeah.
And like I think he's a good mentor for Josuke. And I just feel like he's a good vibe in part 4. He warms up quite a bit. So I lean towards like a low A for part 4 Jotaro. Or even perhaps above Joseph.
I can find peace with that. I think that's alright.
However, it is now time. You said a take that I completely disagree with. I think old Joseph is technically old Joseph, old as shit Joseph is the worst Joseph.
I I like him, but it's more the moments he has with Josuke and kind of the like the especially with like Achtung Baby. I like that entire bit. It's up, but he's very much a side character at this point. Um, that's sad. Again, like I think the whole baby arc just alone, or the fight against Red Hot Chili Peppers, makes it really fun.
You know, the thing is like for me, the problem is like from the start or from the pitch, which is not a bad pitch. Joseph kind of gets screwed over retroactively because it's like he cheats on Holly to make Josuke. So then immediately you're like, Joseph, why would you do that, bud? And then like at that point you're a little sour on him. So then he's like a little old and senile now. But then the Araki brings him back, and I feel like Actung Baby and the Invisible Baby arc is like meant to redeem him as like yes, he's a caring father and he wants to do what's best. He just didn't know. And it is a good bonding with Josuke, but I still don't feel like there's enough. Like there's just not enough to grab onto beyond that. I still kind of don't like him in it.
You know what? It's your list. I will not fight you on it.
Where would you have put old Joseph?
I would put him like in B tier behind Joseph.
Really?
Jonathan, sorry, behind Jonathan. Sorry. Too many Joes.
I could do that. I think he's better than Giorno still. That's how much I hate Giorno. Okay. All right. Now we're back at it. Now we're back at the list. How did you feel about... I did this very suddenly. How do you feel about Doppio and Diavolo?
I think he's fine where he is at the moment. I think that is totally fair. I think he's a despicable asshole, especially with like the way he like, treats people around him. But he's also like he has like all the like the looming shadow of threat like Dio, but he doesn't really partake in the story that much. Well, until he does really mean things to certain people.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel
but
like he has good
yeah,
moments, but like I feel like his drawbacks and like what I don't like about him are just so present when I see him. You know what I mean? That's my take at
I
least.
I 100% agree with that.
Okay. All right, we're getting there. We're trucking through. Now let me ask, looking at this, do you want to change anything around?
No, not yet.
Okay. All right. Now you get to gush about your favorite part. Part 6. Well, your favorite part before the reboot. Part 6.
Before it gets good.
Before it gets good.
Yeah, Stone Ocean is fantastic. Everyone who doesn't who says it's bad for whatever reason, you're wrong. The setting is cool, the characters are fantastic, the fights are all really fun. If your only complaint is that the anime was released like in weird bits, then yeah,
I think
shove
this
off.
I think this is the ultimate case personally. I don't know, maybe not, but this may be the ultimate case of for sure read the manga over the anime because I feel like as a location, the prison is not great in the anime. I feel like it is much better in like the way Araki draws and creates that personality in the manga, whereas I feel like it's very flat in the anime. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's in the anime it doesn't have the personality of just being this like gritty thing, and I think it's also just like you read it week to week in the manga, and it feels more like a this like gritty place where like these characters hang out in, and then in the anime it's just yeah, it's kind of just we go through it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like for me, that's why when I directly compare it to Diamond is Unbreakable, I'm like the setting of Morio beats the setting of the prison. But that being said, once they get out of the prison, also Timo, uh, part 6 comes from my neck of the woods. I lived in Orlando for
Wait.
years.
Before we keep on going, we forgot favorite stand in part 5.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. I forgot. I like Notorious B.I.G.
That's respectable.
I think it's a good fight, and I think it is a good test of Trisha's character.
I am split. I love Sex Pistols for very obvious reasons. It's just, you know,
You're a Mista stan. I get it.
I'm a Mr. Stan, yeah. Aerosmith is pretty cool because Narishi has a very cool character as well.
I agree.
Um, yeah,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I think it will be Sex Pistols.
I,
Most because the stand is so fucking goofy.
I will say I think Part 5 might have the best random enemy stands.
Yeah.
I think we can talk about that later when we get into the reboots because I think Araki does them better but different. But for like this era, I think Part 5 may have the best monster of the week stuff. But to
Part
go,
five is part five is the battle It's like a really good battle anime. If you just want the like really good fights, that's what you get from part 5. It's just really damn good fights.
yeah, I agree. Part 6 comes from my neck of the woods, Timo. I lived in these
Mm.
places. I've been to the space center that does the weird thing. I've been there multiple times. So it is a very different part to me. Um, but that being said, I really like it as the locations, as the personalities. I feel like Jolene is a really good protagonist, and it is really bold of Araki. This was back in like what the late '90s to or like early 2000s to have a female protagonist in a shonen manga. And especially like as a criminal too. Like I love the crime element. I feel like the crime element is portrayed better than Part Five's for multiple reasons. I and also I like the hero. I like the villain. The ending is good, the beginning is good, the middle's good. So, like, for me, this is very consistent, and I feel like it also is a good encapsulation of all the themes Araki was going for, and is a really good conclusion to this era.
Yeah, I think like part six is like was really the moment when Araki was like, "Hey, I can do what I want," and then just kept pushing it. You know, female protagonist. You know, a bit more focused story and away from just the like generic battle manga. Suddenly, the story has like a bit more depth. It sounds weird now, but you of like what was running, and yeah, I think that's kind of opened up, but it's also like I feel you kind of also from like the back in the day, you kind of know that the viewership, the readership kind of dropped and dropped in the ratings a bunch, and they just kept Rocky on because he's a Rocky, right? Um, but I think this was just like a really fun experiment to read through, and also we go back to like stand fights being situations rather than just straight up one-on-one fights
Yeah.
compared to part five.
Yes.
We're just like, hey, we fight against this weird like LG thing. Foo Fighters is also cool, one of the coolest characters in all of JoJo's.
I think what sold me on the part was, and goes into the situational element, was when Jolene first meets Jotaro, and there's like this big reality fake out multiple times of like, oh no, we're actually being like consumed by the stand, and like Jolene has to like escape through like this weird liminal space, um, and like to me, and then that's when you're introduced to like the secret supporting cast, and I think the secret
Mm-hmm.
supporting cast is actually like really good. Like I like Hermes, I like all of them. I like Foo Fighters and like all of that. But that being said, like I feel like the actual like story is really for that the secret cast, especially like Weather Report and his connection to Poochie.
I think in general, I think it's like this is the part where like every character just has something going on with them, like an internal conflict
Yeah.
that is just not just tied to the plot, but actually like they have their own goals. Like
Yes.
Hermes is doing her own thing, that with a report, uh, reclaiming his memories. Emporio's entire deal. Emporio is also a very cool character.
I love Emporio.
Um,
What's the Natsuki? The dude hopelessly in love with Jolene. Literally that crew is really cool to me. Super cool to me. Um, I I think I would put it in A, and as appeasing the Timo as we get into more controversial takes. I will bump my Diamond is Unbreakable down so you can have this be the crowning part
Okay,
for.
okay. You know why I want to see part six there in this position before I'm Demon Breaker, because the moment we like leave the prison, shit gets real. Okay, the Dio children, it's a bit of a weird spot, but you know what? Bohemian Rhapsody is a really cool, fun fight, and it's a really fucking stupid stand.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
and I think we should respect that. I think this entire thing where Weather Report turns everyone into snails is also really damn cool. And then we go to the Kennedy Space Center, and that's when shit real gets really real. That fight is like that's not even a fight. That's just a fight. That's just a gauntlet to survival, right?
Yeah.
Because Poochie, and we'll get into this later, but like that's like I think the first time in JoJo's where like the final fight feels like an actual threat, and not like oh yeah the good guys will win this.
I think
Because
when Jolene dies and Emporio is sucked into the new world, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is gonna happen. And that is exciting. So yeah, I agree. It's a really good ending. And then after Poochie fails, um, or rather succeeds and then fails, um, like that climax is very satisfying, where everyone has a happy ending,
mm.
and everyone has a happy life. And how many times in JoJo's do you get to see a happy life? Honestly, it's only part fours and part six for these. So yeah.
So, moving on to the villains, I guess.
How do you feel about Poochie?
I think Poochie starts off as like, oh yeah, he's just like this like little goon, you know? He's just like doing his thing, supporting his like. First of all, I love the dynamic he has with Dio, where like Dio isn't just like crazy villain dude, but it's actually like, oh yeah, maybe he is like there's internally something going on there, right?
I think one of the nice things about Poochie is he makes part 3 Dio better. I think
Yeah.
the problem with part 3 Dio is that he is still a little too Saturday morning cartoon. He is still a little too much like a very fake.
He's fucking
character.
insane, but he just we then kind of realize he just tunes it up for the Joestars, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, I
This
guess
is
that's
like
the thing is like Poochie contextualizes the thing as like Dio isn't always like that. Dio's like that specifically to Joestars, and
Yeah.
like. And like to me, it definitely redeems part 3 Dio to where I feel comfortable putting him in S at that point. And I think Poochie's own plan and his own character and his own backstory is actually really, really, really good. And it makes sense thematically, you know.
So where would you put him?
All right. I have the feeling he should be an A, and we should bump part 1 Dio down now. I feel like it's time to put part 1 Dio down. It's time.
Okay, I think that is agreeable. Personally, I think like Poochie comes like in different levels because Poochie with like Made in Heaven is like on a different level than Poochie, when he was just Whitesnake or Sea Moon.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I take that.
I think as of right now, I'm pretty happy with this. I could see you being like, I think he's better than Yoshikage Kira. I think Yoshikage Kira is really consistent. And he didn't need to like be there's very little problems with him, and I think what he does great. I think
And I think also like
go ahead.
what part 6 kind of establishes, he's just like a villain that is present during the entire story, right? Yeah. Poochie is like there the entire time. He's not just a side character. He's there. He's involved the entire time.
Damn, I think you're lampshading a problem character later.
Maybe. Yeah. Just maybe. But I'm also kind of oiling up 2 of my faves that are coming up. Yeah. I'm glazing them really hard. Yeah, Poochie is fantastic. I love him.
Okay. All right. As of right now, here's the thing. I have been very kind to this part, and I think I will be even kinder. I feel like the only thing that I would do is maybe bump that down. If I could do this by myself, I would still bump it down just 1. But that being said, out of pre Steel Ball Run JoJo's, I think Jolene does deserve S. I think she's got it.
I think she's like the first JoJo who's like has like a more complete arc throughout the entire thing.
Yeah.
Compared to everyone else.
Yeah.
And she's so good. I love her. The like feistiness, she's Jotaro's daughter, but she has like a lot. She's also like a way more softer than he was in that age. She's like there's like a lot of internally going on.
Yeah. It says a lot that the character, it says a lot that Poochie and Jolene are great. In the others where it's like, oh, I think this one, I think Jonathan is pretty less than Dio, or like Jotaro's less than Dio. Like, I feel like this is one where they're equivalent and they both matter and they both have momentum to them and they both have something you can really latch onto as a reader. And this is, I think, the best complexity wrinkle to Jotaro. I feel like this I would also put in Jotaro A. For me, he's more of a supporting character. He's literally taken out of commission for a long portion of time. And I think the thing that I like about him is because of the family dynamic with Jolene, he's a little bit of a shitbag. He's a bit of a bad father, but also he's kind of a good father in the way of like, oh, I secretly care about you. I don't want you to get hurt. but
Yeah.
I'm also emotionally distant, as you would expect a Jotaro to be.
Yeah, but I think it's what makes it work is also that he's very aware that he fucked up.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
then also, I guess what also like comes into play later, the DOPTSD that hits in at the Kennedy Space Center, right?
Yeah,
Um, and that impossible choice he has to make at the end, save his daughter or put out the villain.
yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Oh, it's such a great ending to such an iconic character. So I love it. It's fantastic. I say it's fantastic a lot. I'm sorry, but yeah,
I agree.
Jotaro in that part rules. Especially once he like actually like kicks into gear.
All right, now that I have glazed the other parts of Jotaro, can I please bump Part 3 Jotaro down to like right here?
I'm okay with that. I can live with that.
Because I think the difference in protagonist versus supporting character for Jotaro is so huge. It's
I mean,
gigantic.
it's, I see another Jotaro. There's that part 5 Jotaro.
It's perfect. I didn't even include this. He's
Yeah,
a,
he's like he's literally in 2 panels. We ignore
it's
him.
not worth it. He's got like probably like 2 minutes in the anime, which is probably why they included him. I'm not including Part 5 Jotaro. I'm sorry.
No.
If I do,
Even
I
Koichi
would have
gets
been deep.
even Koichi gets more screen time than him,
Yeah,
and
for
he's
real.
also barely in that.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, okay. But guess what, Timo? Now's the time that we can both gush about the best part.
The best part that a lot of people who are watching this probably have not read yet. Okay, you need to stop this video podcast thingy now. Go find that part online and read through it. Zero Run is arguably one of the best comic books, mangas, whatever you want to call that, out there. It is bellissimo.
To get started on why this is a good part, I feel like we need to say the pitch. The pitch is it is a horse race across the country where the main villain for the large majority of the part is the president of the United States. And it's a semi, not really, but a little bit of a redo of Phantom Blood with some Part 3 Stardust Crusader elements in there. And there's a really good relationship between Gyro Zappelli and Johnny Joestar. And it's like wacky races with stands and horses. And it's a cowboy western. And I think one of the things that's important to note about Araki is he's very influenced by Western culture. He's influenced by France. He's obviously influenced by Italy, but he's also influenced by America. And I feel like this is a really good commentary on American history through a completely alternative history lens. And what he does with both manga, the format, and everything is just really, really great. I really like the momentum. Because it's a race, they're not stuck in one spot or they're not waiting for something to happen. They are on the hunt. And there's like a secret plot of like, and it becomes the main plot later of finding Jesus Christ corpse parts throughout America. Turns out the Mormons were right all along. It's crazy. The lore is crazy.
Okay, I think what's like crazy with Steve Run is like if you read it, you kind of notice like when at the start it was still like a weekly serial. It started out, I think it still was like in Shonen Jump or whatever, and then the jump to like the monthly releases, like the bump in quality in art alone. Uh, we haven't talked about like the art of the JoJo's because like I feel like a lot of people reading, watching and listening to this probably only watch the anime. JoJo's art has always been good, right? Especially with like the weekly format. It's insane how good Araki and his team got at this and how it evolved over time. But the bump in quality alone in part 7 because the a big mechanic in the fights is like finding the golden ratio, right? And that suddenly presence everywhere in the framing of the panels and the pictures and everything. And also, what I think is also very admirable. I'm not sure, Brogan, if you're a connoisseur of the comics as I am, as much.
Okay.
Um, but the page layout in part 7 gets so fun and weird
Yeah. I
because like suddenly it's not page by page. It's like always a spread. It's always this page spread, and then they toy with the composition of that a lot, and it's so unique, so different. I love reading it. It's just fun to read.
and
On top of the art being great.
I also like also timeout. God damn it, we keep forgetting. What's your favorite stand in part 6?
Um. Ooh. Ooh. I think it might be Weather Report.
There's a lot of good stands in part 6. Bohemian Rhapsody is really good. I like the Feng Shui guy. I feel like he's a really good example of a type of thing that starts to show up with Steel Ball Run, but you can also see it in the other parts where technique also becomes a stand. Where if you've like harnessed a technique, you evolve into like your true self or whatever, and that becomes your stand. But you're also still limited to what that is. So like with the Feng Shui fight, it's very based on like the rules of how Feng Shui works and his philosophy. So once it starts working against him, he starts to fail. And I think that's really, really cool. And Steel Ball Run has that with Johnny. Johnny's stand is developing as he learns about spin. And I really like how spin is basically Hamon recontextualized and like reinterpreted as something much more impactful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like spin is basically Hamon but good. And I think that's awesome. There's still like a lot to say about the part, but like for me, that's my favorite stand in part 6. I think the nice thing about the stand battles in part 7 is that they feel like every arc and every moment feels thematically rich. Like it feels like there's something that's very important happening and it means something to the characters and it's developing. And I really, really love that. I love, for instance, can I gush? This is possibly my favorite stand in part 7 already. We're going to get into it. Is Scary Monsters, Diego's first stand. The dinosaurs. He turns into a dinosaur and like has control over dinosaurs. It's so fun.
That's not even his stand. It's someone else's stand. That's like the cool
He
bit about
stole
it.
someone else's stand, yes, as well. Like it's not even his. But the nice thing about that is I feel like that is a really good way to like have the part 1 Dio kind of happen, where it's like a vampire bestial Dio, and that really shows to me, and it works. And I think we're gonna get into Diego later, but like I just love how Araki does Diego, and yeah, it works. 10 out of 10. But like all of the other ones, like Ringo and his time power, the fucking tree stand, like all of those are so awesome. I love them all. And Jesus. And Jesus.
And Jesus. Yeah. Right. The plot of part 7 is the president of the United States steals Jesus Christ's corpse and impregnates a 14-year-old woman with it, and she becomes like a magical train. Right. That's
That
something
is
that
the plot. Yes,
happens.
that is the plot.
That is something that happens.
That is
I
the
think
plot.
my favorite. Okay, my favorite stand in part 7 is because every single one of us needs someone like that. Hey, yeah, is my favorite
I
stand.
agree. That's a very cool. That's a very good like subplot. I like the wacky racers. I love. It also allows for cameos. I love the cameos
Yeah.
because you see an Avdol, you see a Higashikata, and you see fucking a Stroheim. I'm like, that's so fun. to be able to see these in a reboot, and they're just like wacky racers. It's so fun. And
Yeah.
I think also to talk about like random racers real quick, I think Sandman is really, really good. I think
Oh, Sandman
the
is so
Native
damn cool.
American and his journey and the fact that he just runs. He doesn't have a horse. He just fucking runs. And that's it. That's so awesome. Like I just love all of it. It's a great part. Wow, 10 out of 10. Just whoa.
Oh, we forgot about Mountain Tim. Tim, he's also cool with Old Losa Me. That's
Yes.
also a cool stand. One of our favorite stand in that part is probably Cream Soda because Hot Pants is also very cool.
Yes.
It is a lady called Hot Pants in that part. She's amazing. She also looks really cool.
Yes. I think also we're gonna get into it a little bit more later, but I think Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap is a great stand. That's a good example of like coming up with a batshit main villain stand, and it's good.
Yeah,
Because it sort of like puts into perspective a lot of the reboot parallel timeline things, but also it's like it's a way to showcase Funny Valentine's faults as a human being through his stand, because otherwise it kind of is like, oh yeah, he's just like a shitty politician that wants what's best for America, I guess, question mark. But through Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, you can see that he's willing to do anything to get what he wants, and a lot of those things come at like a huge cost, and he's willing to just fucking fuck over a lot of stuff for it. And I think he's a very cool design visually. I think that's one of my favorite stand designs because it looks like a baseball glove, and that's so American. Like Araki was like, I want to make this a very American ass stand. Shit like that's just so fun to me.
it's a, I could talk about this part forever because it's like again, it's like one of my favorites. It just has so many cool bits and pieces. All the characters are really cool and fleshed out. Um, I guess one of my favorite arcs is, and that's a bit more underrated than like compared to something like True Man's World, is the Sugar Mountain arc.
Yeah,
That one is it's so good.
I agree. We can keep gushing about it because we've
We
got two other
could
things to
keep
rank.
pushing it. Yeah, but if you take anything from this, just if you have never like read JoJo and made it this far, read part 7. It is such a once in a lifetime experience.
There you go. Let's go to the antagonists. Okay, so I've already teased that I really like Funny Valentine. I think Funny Valentine is really, really good. He is probably Poochie level. I'd put him Poochie level.
Put him above that. Honestly, I would even trade his place with Akira at this point. Put
I
Kira behind Poochie. I'm
I
fine with that.
I could
You
do
can
this. How do you feel about this?
you can do we can do that. I'm totally fine with that.
Because I agree. I think Funny Valentine is like he's the driving force for the plot, and his thing makes sense. All of like he's monstrous, and he's also there for so long in the part,
Yeah.
and like he has a presence throughout, and you feel it as the president of the United States. The other thing I like, and I don't know, like it's never explained. I assume it's just like Araki wanting to draw a hot guy slash universe bullshit with D4C, but he starts out as a fat dude, like a short little fat guy,
Yeah.
and then he redraws him to be like this fucking built like dude that's beautiful. And I'm like, this it's just very interesting to me how it goes. Um, yeah, S tier character, S tier stand. His like last ditch effort is still like really effective. I love it.
Oh, and of course we can't forget like his little arc, right?
Yeah.
Who shot Johnny Joestar?
Yes.
That's also such a cool fucking story to make where you just like have this murder mystery and it's like from every single perspective of what was happening
Yes.
and then it slowly comes together. It's so
And the
cool.
mystery is how his stand works. It's so fun.
Yeah.
It's so fun. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. Now we talk about Diego Brando. Now, do you want to hear a secret? Do you want to know a secret, Timo.
Shoot.
I like Diego Brando more than Dio.
Which one?
Okay. This is complicated. I wish there were two Diegos. There should be two Diegos here.
Because I don't count like Scary Monsters Diego as like a villain because he's more like a
He's a
rival.
character. He's like a general. But here's the thing. I think my problem with normal pre-SBR Dio is what I said earlier. He's very cartoony in a bad way. To me, I think he works in a shonen way of like, oh, I need a guy that you fucking hate. And part 1 Dio, you fucking hate. And part 3 Dio, you also fucking hate. And then part 6 kind of like gives a little bit more perspective to like what Dio is trying to do and who he is. But he's still not like a real character to me. He's a comic book character. Whereas Diego is a real character. And he has motivations, and he learns things, and he cares about things, and he doesn't necessarily want to be a bad guy. He just wants to do things that progress his interests. And that's not necessarily always bad. And Diego is really, really cool to me in that way. And is a really good rival to Johnny. For me, to me, he's S. And then my one problem, and it's like a semi-problem, I don't know how you feel about it, is once normal Diego, Scary Monsters Diego, dies, Funny Valentine brings in a different Diego from a different world, and that one has the world as the stand. And, for some people, it feels like a cop-out. For me, I'm like, no, this is the logical progression because this is Dio at his most Dio, and this brings back like the part 3 bad guy. He's less of a character at that point. He is less of like a, grounded human being, but he is also much more like a test for Johnny as a Joestar, as the hero of the part. It says a lot that, number one, it's the world in a race. The one thing that you wouldn't want to do other than fight the world who can stop time is try to beat him in a race. And that's exactly what Johnny has to do. And it also says a lot that it ends on a bridge, or at least Johnny's part of it ends on a bridge, because it feels very Jotaro versus Dio. And Dio also comes out on top on that. And that's very interesting to me. To me, Diego just works. Diego's S tier. All of SBR is S tier.
The entire build up to the reveal of the world is so damn good. Like, again, that was like when I started reading this shit, right? And I just remember like the hype around it. The feelings. Oh, I still get goosebumps about it. This is so good. Like, me who like only knew about like the world of like the funny memes back then, it's just, that felt so good.
Yeah, to me,
the way he gets defeated as well.
Yeah, dude. Oh, it's so fun, and I love the moment it's so funny. Comparing and contrasting with part 3. Part 3, there's like such a long time where Jotaro is like, what's his power? And then Dio's like, can Jotaro move through time? But like in part 7, like Johnny pretty fast goes, oh, he can stop time. And then like there's a point where Diego's about to try to kill Tusk. And then he notices Tusk moves for a moment. And he goes, oh, I'm not gonna attack Tusk. And like it's just an instant. And then we're back to momentum. It's momentum. It's so fun.
I honestly can't wait to see this part animated.
I think it's gonna be lacking. There's no way they're gonna animate all these horses, Timo. There's too many horses.
You know what? I don't doubt David production anymore.
That's fair. They're cooking. They're taking a long time to cook, but let them cook.
Let them cook, indeed.
Okay,
so
now we talk Johnny / Okay, I don't know how you feel about this. I'm gonna lump them together, or you can rank gyros separately.
I think we should lump them together because Johnny starts off more as like the side character or like the because Joro is just so much cooler than him
Yeah.
for the most part as well. But then Johnny kind of starts coming into his own more, and then we go from there. I love Johnny because he's out of all the Joestars, he has like a bit more texture to him. He's a bit of a nasty bitch sometimes as well,
He
which I
has the
really
most
like.
flaws. The most
Yeah.
flaws. Yeah. Well, I guess aside from Jojo, but we are not talking about him yet. But yeah.
Also,
um,
can we talk about like the honestly kind of cool move of making a character who's disabled
I agree.
the the main dude, and like actually making this a thing for the most part. Like sure he gets healed, and I think that's kind of weakens it a bit, but for the most part, like him having no like not being able to use his legs is like it's just really bad for him. It fucks everything up over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I love it. Especially because it's kind of his fault as well.
Well,
Because
I
it's
mean,
on his own.
I guess that's it's one of those things where all of the things tied to Johnny are about his character arc, going from
Mm.
this is a realistic version of what Jonathan should actually be as a human being,
Yeah.
right? As a rich, spoiled boy raised in this thing, Johnny is rotten at the start. But when he becomes disabled, he loses the things that he wanted to have. And then he's like, how do I get this back? And then his emotional journey and partnership with Gyro makes him learn about this technique and makes him learn about what's important to him. And he changes as a human being. And, I agree that tying the disability to his progression, and it's like, oh, he's broken now, but once he is ascended to his true form, he can walk again. I feel like it's a little lame in that sense, but it
Mm.
works as a story. You know what I mean? So I don't
Yeah.
necessarily have a problem with that. I also like his design. I think visually he is great, and I love Tusk. It's
That's cool.
shocking to me that in part four, Araki came up with acts for a stand and then chose to not give a protagonist act stands until part seven. You know what I mean? It's very
Mm.
telling in that sense because like the acts are like a
But
very clear progression of a character arc. So like
but I
having
think that
Johnny
it
do
works.
go ahead.
It works best for Johnny with his character. I feel like if you put it in onto like Jolene, for example, Jolene's entire thing is like more how crafty she is with her stand, right? What she can do with hers instead of just like upgrading it. No, she gets like, I mean, at the end she like unravels her entire body and everything
Yeah.
to trick people. That's insane. Like I think that's like not fair. Like to say, oh yeah, it's lame because the other characters don't have it. Because like
I didn't
aside
mean it like
from
that, but I'm
Giorno getting like a literal ass pull power up,
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I mean, though, is instead of Giorno getting an ass pull power at the end, what if he learned as a character and grew as a character, and as he grew, his stand reflected that? And then what if that's just another part? And then that's this part. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say. Is
yeah,
he grows. That's it. That's it.
he grows. He grows. He
And
grows.
Gyro is a really, really good supporting character. The best Joe Bro, because he is mostly a protagonist for a long portion of it. And he's a little slimy, a little dirty. He's funny. He's charming. But he's also like fucking baller. He looks so cool as a design.
The only thing I can like always think about with these two is just that scene of like him going, "Hey Johnny, tell him to go eat shit and fall off the horse. Do it yourself.
Yeah.
Go eat shit and fall off your
Where
horse."
he sings the
Oh,
mozzarella song.
oh god, it's so good.
And I also feel like it's a really nice callback to like legacy for him to be like, oh, my name is Caesar.
Jesus,
I
the
feel like
yeah.
that brings a nice impact to it all, and is is really just part seven's really good about legacy, but also moving forward and growing beyond it. This
Yes,
is
it's
go ahead.
it feels like I'm not sure if this is like a redo. It feels more like a like okay, we use like everything we've learned up this far and just like move forward with that. And these callbacks feel more like just like references that are there to like, still have a bit of familiarity there, but they still work on their own, right?
Well,
Aside from the world being like the obvious, like very strong callback.
yeah. Well,
But I think that's also kind of maybe plays into this of like Johnny forging forward and like fighting the old, you know,
yeah.
and bringing the new.
Well, we'll get into it in part 8 because I have a more specific take on part 8. But I feel
Yeah.
like the way Araki did the redos, other than obviously Johnny and Dio, and even then Johnny and Dio are radically different.
Mm.
What Araki tries to do is bring back concepts and elements of a character, and then like tries to take a part of them and makes them into a better character that's different, but definitely feels like an echo of something. And I definitely feel that a lot in part 8. And I feel like if you look at part 8, we'll talk about it when we get there, but if you look at part eight's characters, there are a lot of echoes, but there's not a lot of one-to-ones.
Mm.
And I don't know. Either way, Johnny's S tier for me. Gyro's S tier for me. Bada bing, bada boom.
Yes.
What is your favorite?
Bada
Oh,
boom.
we've already said our favorite stands of part 7.
Yeah.
This is the only one where we were so excited.
Yeah.
We talked about the favorite
Yeah.
stands.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, is cool because everyone needs just someone on your like on your back who just encourages you and tells you you're doing great
Good
and you
luck,
will win.
man. You need luck.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah.
All right. It's time to talk part 8. Technically not the last part, but it's the last part for this video.
Jojolian. What is your take on Jojolian?
Oof. This is very complex. Honestly, my feelings on this may be the most complex of any part. I feel like... okay. Let me try to articulate this properly. I feel like the mysteries of Jojolian are amazing. I feel like if I read this weekly, which I did not, I would really, really like the part until the ending. There's a lot going on here that I really like. The one and there's a horror element to it. There's a really cool crime drama element to it. It's a love story with Josuke and the hero say what's her name? What's her name?
Ooh, oh god, I'm bad with names.
It's
Wait,
a
let me
hero
check
say.
real quick.
It's like the
Yeah, dude.
Koichi, but it's the girl. It's part 4 again, but it's not part 4. And this goes back to what I was saying about like redoing or like having an echo of something, but instead of it being like a town, and the town is full of crazy characters in it, it's focusing mostly on one family in the town. And yes, there is a lot of personality to Morio still, and there's still a lot of things in Morio that make it a cool place. But the real focus for a lot of it is the Higashikata family and the mystery
Yeah.
on who Josuke is. Because who Josuke is fucking crazy. Like the first few chapters in, he's Yoshikage Kira. And you're like, what does this mean? What, huh? And then like you're slowly piecing together the mystery of these things, and like his past is really cool. I like Josuke as a character in this a lot. I feel like the problem comes near the end when, sometimes a good mystery doesn't have the right answers.
Yeah.
And this did not have
question
the
is-
right answers.
The question is, do you let like the mystery kind of disappoint you if the resolution kind of ruin the rest of it? Like if you enjoyed everything that happened up until that point?
Yeah.
Because I think character-wise, this is like probably as strong as Steel Ball Run, maybe even stronger.
I agree
because
on
I think
some
like
levels, yes. Yeah.
some of okay, the best way I can put it without getting into the nitty-gritty of things is that Steel Ball Run has like really high peaks, right? But I think Jojolian is way more consistent in like, the ups and downs and the quality of it. And the writing is just very, very strong consistently throughout, and there's like little downtime in between, which I really love. Like even the fucking beetle fight is so damn cool with how it's set up.
Yeah.
And I mean, just think about it. It's just a beetle fight, you know, and that turns into like some weird fucking 5D chess thing. It's amazing.
But that's
Um,
also a very part four thing because like beetle fighting is like traditional in Japan. That's like a game in
mm,
Japan they play, right? Especially in small towns. You figured that would have been in part four, and then it wasn't. So I feel like part eight does a lot, and like that is like probably the most intense moment with a villain. Secretly, Jobin should have been main villain. That's the truth. But
that's true. That is true. 100%.
but
I
that
agree.
being said, like, yeah, it's so fun how like the most mundane things or like the family dynamics are so cool in like this stand way. I love it, and I love soft and wet. As a stand ability, the bubbles. It, Araki loves going to the bubbles. Not only Caesar, but Killer Queen's little cat thing and the bubbles with the explosives. Like, it just all ties together, and then it comes back here with the bubbles. I like the stand. This stand is really, really cool.
It is, yeah. Gappy Stan is fantastic.
Um, I. That being said, I don't love this part. I love this part. I don't love it.
Put it behind part four. Is that okay for you?
Is that what you
Behind part
want?
four? I would put it there. Yeah.
You would? You think part four is
Like,
better?
I would put it like equal as part four, honestly. I would put it equal almost.
I agree in some ways. I think there is something to be said about the characters being as strong as Steel Ball Run's characters and the mystery being as strong. Um, I feel like learning about Josuke's past with Josefumi and Yoshikage Kira and like that earlier era is really cool. And I also, we're going to get to it when we talk about the Rock Humans. I like the Rock Humans as a concept.
Yeah.
Um, so, yeah, I mean, it's A. There's no way it's worse than Stardust Crusaders. Like this is
Yeah.
very clearly like lower than this. I agree. Oh, this is right to me. Um, let's talk the bad guys. I think we're talking about them without talking about them. So let's do it. Where would you put Jobin?
I think he would look really good next to Pucci.
I agree. I agree.
Jobin is really damn
Honestly,
cool.
yeah, no, I
I
would put him
struggle
I
to
put him
put
right
him
there.
as like a villain. I think he's like Dio in Zero Run, where he's more like I guess a rival character. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. He's a little bit of a victim to his family, and he's a little bit of a victim to the crime drama going on. Um, but he's also a little ruthless, and he has a really really cool stand for a bad guy. It's straightforward, but it's good. Um, he is everything that Toru is not. But I'll defend Toru on some levels, so don't worry. But
I think Toro's definitely a bit different compared to what we have now. And I think we see like what Toru was. I feel like we see that more of that in the current part in Jojolands. Like I feel like Araki's more experimental with that kind of character at this point. But
the real problem with Toru, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I think number one, Jobin should have been main villain. But if he wasn't, and you were doing this Rock Human thing, and you were doing like the secret ringleader of the Rock Humans thing, you should have put Toru in way earlier. Especially since he is also the romantic rival to Josuke. I don't know why he shows up in the hospital and like only in the hospital and after that point. He should have been in way earlier. Like super
yeah,
earlier. Even if it's just like, oh, I have an ex and that's the ex and he shows up once in a while. And like, hey Josuke, what's up? You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's the ultimate flaw. I don't mind the stand. I think the stand is pretty cool.
Stan is cool. I agree with that.
And
Window view is really cool.
I was gonna say, in terms of echoes, the thing that makes me appreciate Toru and the rock humans is, to me, I don't know if you vibe with this. I don't know if I've ever told you how I see them. I see them as that grounded, realistic, or human, or like, the only way to say is grounded interpretation of what the Pillar Men would be. Like,
Yeah.
if you were to if you were to describe Pillar Men in like a real world sense, this is much more realistic to that. And in that sense, also, there is a direct visual callback from yes, yeah. So, like, Wonder Review has a visual callback to Cars, like
Mm.
pretty clearly in the hospital, because there's like a, it's the little scythe things. He has little scythe things on his arms, which is like, no, there's no other way to fucking do that. So like in my head, I'm like, okay, so this is a version of Cars. And there was also a version of Cars in Steel Ball Run, the guy that like freezes into stone in the bottom of the ocean. But like, this just goes back to the Echoes thing of like Araki trying to do things better and emphasize more of his themes and what's going on in the story. And in that sense, I think Toru really works, and also makes more sense for why Joseph shows up at the very end. We don't see a young Joseph on the JoJos, by the way,
Mm.
but it's not that big of a deal. He's barely in it. That being said, he's still not a great antagonist. I would put Toru above Cars, below Part 1 Dio.
I'm fine with that. I can take that. I can live with
Where
that.
would you put him?
I would probably put him lower. I would probably put him between Cars and Diablo.
I
At
could
this
see
point.
that. I could see that. Do okay. We're gonna go to JoJo, and then we're gonna do final preparations. So, how do you feel about Josuke?
I like Josuke. I would put him between Josuke and Jotaro.
Like right here?
Yes.
Do you think Part 4 Josuke is better?
It's difficult. I think I like them both for different reasons. I think I'm probably more entertained by part 4 Josuke for being a little dog and a bit of like a mischievous bastard. But Josuke part 8, or Gappy as we lovingly call him, he's just adorable. That's like the best way I can put him. He's cute. Yeah.
I like his romance. I like Yoshikage Kira. This is kind of the only way to describe. Is I think Yoshikage Kira in this makes a lot of sense after reading Part 4. I think this is a
Yeah.
scenario where it's hard to read Part 8 and not appreciate Part 4, like as an informed text, especially for Gappy as a character.
Mm.
And seeing, and also, I guess, in a way, to contrast with Giorno, you take a Josefumi who's kind of like Jotaro meets OG Josuke, and
Yeah.
and you take Yoshikage Kira, who's evil, but in Part 8, Yoshikage Kira's not like psycho evil. He's just kind of a dick, but he's also like good. He's still a JoJo kind of. And then you morph them together. And I feel like this is a better circumstance of a morphing of a good and a bad than Giorno was. Giorno's like got nothing to him. Gappy's got like an edge to him. He's got a personality. He's got spunk, but he still is a good person. So, yeah. We're not gonna do Jodio. We're not gonna do Jotaro. We're gonna do redos, shuffling, and then final thoughts. So we're gonna. Are you happy with this order for the JoJos?
I think that one is fine. I can live with that. I can go to sleep with that and think,
What,
yeah.
if there was one problem you had, what would the problem be?
Um, I have not read enough of Jojolands to rank Jojo yet because I really like his character. But one of the things I kind of want to mention here is just like bystanding-ish is Jojo's sister,
I agree.
um,
Dragona. Yeah.
Jagona. Such a cool character. Also the move to just put a trans adjacent character. I'm not sure if we can just say that, claim that she's trans, but
I think she's
pretty
trans.
obviously is.
I think she's
Um,
trans. How much of part 9 have you read?
I've read like the first 15
You got
chapters, like
you
after they robbed Rohan, basically. That's like how far I read.
did you get the flashback with the bus?
Yes, I got that.
Yeah, to me, I think that sold me on the part. I think part 9 is already shaping up to be part 5 but better. And yeah, it's part 5 but better, and then it's got good characters and it's got a good family dynamic with Jodio, who is legit like a psycho, but also cares about his family and his friends, and Dragona, who has this personal gender thing going on, and the party, which is kind of goofy right now, but I get the feeling that the party, like in a part 5 way, is going to boil over. And I don't know about you, I have the feeling that Araki is going to commit to a bad guy secretly in the party, in this part.
Mm.
Um,
I'm really excited to see where that goes.
and I also think to not we they didn't include Howler as an antagonist here right now, but for part 9 Howler, he's kind of like Jorno. So it's very fun
Mm.
to see Jodio against kind of a Jorno. And I don't know. That's super fun. As of now, I would personally rank Jodio right here. I would rank him right here. If it was Jodio and Dragona together, I'd bump him up to like right here right now with a Dragona. But just Jodio by himself, I'm gonna put like right here.
I think you would have to take them as a double package, but that's all right. I can live with that.
Yeah, we're not gonna rank them. It's not worth ranking them. The part's not over
Mm.
yet, Timo.
Yeah,
Um, are
we'll
you
just
happy?
have to wait the 10 more years.
Yeah. Are you happy with this?
Mm. Can we switch Fanny Valentine with Dio?
Like this?
Yes.
I'm okay with that. I don't love Part 3 Dio. You could talk me into knocking Part 3 Dio down all day long. I think
I
he
don't want
just
to knock him
I
down
think he
because
just
I think
earns
that's
S. He earns S by being built up like
Dio.
he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um yeah. I otherwise I'm happy with this ranking for bad guys. Um maybe the only other thing I would do is maybe bump Jobin down to B and have him be above Part 1 Dio. But I don't think Cars deserves to be in the same tier as Part 1 Dio. I don't feel like anyone here deserves to be above Cars. Um, yeah. Yeah. That looks right.
Yeah.
Parts.
That looks about right.
Are you
Yeah.
happy with parts?
Mm, I might want to bump part 5 down a bit behind Battle Tendency, but then again, also part 5's fights are way more fun. So I think that's also fine as it is, honestly.
All right. It's time, Timo, for me to argue something. Can I bump Part 1 to last of B?
I'm fine with that. I don't mind
I
that.
Timo, I love part one. I like part one. I don't know what it is. It's short. It's fun. It's brisk.
I see. I get it. Speedwagon is in there. I know your
Speedwagon.
love
I mean,
for
Speedwagon.
British
Come on.
London gangster, the gangster dudes with like sickle-shaped weapons, kind of
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
They come
He's
back
Billy
to them.
Kane and Axel, dude. I
Yeah,
can't deny my Speedwagon love.
that's okay. For Speedwagon, I can do it.
uh, okay, Timo, thank you so much for joining me. Do you have any final thoughts, plugs, anything like that?
Read JoJo, especially part 6, 7, and 8, and 9 now that it's going out. And yeah, that's basically my bit. I don't have anything to plug at the moment.
Okay, there you go. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this fantastic, or should I say, bizarre adventure. All right, we're done.